Welcome back to the Wendy Bell radio program. Following orders in the military is sort of a predicate of service. But when you question those orders because you don't fundamentally agree with something that is scientifically questionable in your mind, or it violates feelings of your religious preferences or your medical needs, can you in the military say, I don't want that? I don't want to do that without being punished? Apparently not. Today's the day when the Army and the Army Reserves allegedly are holding that proverbial gun to everybody's head, saying this is the date you need to be vaccinated by. If not, pack your bags. Somebody who knows a lot about this is Technical Sergeant Tsgt Lauderbaugh. I'm so excited to have him on the phone with us today. Sir, welcome to the program, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Wendy, and thank you for the opportunity. Good morning, Brock. Good morning to your listeners.
I want you to explain exactly how this makes you feel, knowing that you had to make a stance here, sir. Tell people a little bit about you and why you find yourself on this hill today.
Well, I've been in the military about 19 years, 6 months. I got about 6 months left on my contract, up until the point where we had to take the mandated vaccine, which was ordered to us back on September 11th drill. So that weekend, I basically, we were given the order on the Saturday, and the next day after that, I typed up a letter and stood in front of my squadron and let them know basically a lot of the information that was going on or that was out there. I did a lot of the research prior to what was coming. And on our base, we didn't even have to be masked or take the tests whatsoever. So that dropped a big question. The other part that raised a big question to me is that during the pandemic, none of us were ever deployed. Now, being in the military as long as I have, if there's a big event within the country, everyone is immediately deployed and brought out there to take care of the American people or the American public for the scenario at hand. So a lot of that raised a lot of questions. And I basically took a stand and ended up the sheets that I typed up with all the research on it to my leadership and stood up in front of the squadron on the 12th of September. At that point into October, we were basically told that and marched up to the hangar bay, and then they were either given the Moderna or the Pfizer injection, and they basically lined everybody up. And there's other groups, of course, that were religious and medical, so they stood off to the side, but they basically injected pretty much the majority of the base. At that point, we basically were given the opportunity to put either a religious or a medical exemption in. And then there's a process that goes through for the next couple months. None of the people who submitted a religious exemption were admitted or given the right. They were denied that. And then you can submit an appeal. And then there's a process from that point on for the appeal process, which a lot of us were denied. Nobody whatsoever was given their rights or religious freedom. At that point, I basically, through this process, started to get involved with congressional support, starting from the ground up in my township and then working my way up through the state level. So I got in touch with Congressman Guy Reschenthaler and Senator Doug Mastriano. At that point, I met with Senator Doug Mastriano in Somerset while he was campaigning and spoke with him and Kathy Barnett and Teddy Daniels at the time and expressed to them my concerns on this ongoing battle. And he was the only one who really listened to me. At that point, I gotten a lot of letters from congressional support from Guy Reschenthaler and Senator Mastriano, which I took that information and put it together and brought it to my leadership's attention. I submitted 2 IG complaints, which are Inspector General complaints, an EEOC complaint against my command. This is through the ongoing process because I was already denied. And then come to January, I was given an LOR, which is a letter of reprimand, because I did not follow the orders that were given, knowing that they were unlawful. Now, a lot of the media is putting out that, oh, these are lawful orders. No, they're not. They are unlawful because it's my decision to what I want to put into my body, number one. Number two, if someone tells you, hey, go jump off the Brooklyn Bridge, are you going to do it? Obviously not. So this is where I come down to the lawful, unlawful part. Also, it's against the Constitution, and it's against my oath of enlistment. So basically, in taking a stand, I obey my oath that I sworn to God, to the United States, and to look after my airmen. As an NCO, that's my duty. And what I did call for was a timeout in the beginning. What a timeout does in the military is basically pauses the scenario so they can look at both sides of the coin. And in doing so, when I gave them that information, my hope was to stop everything. That was my hope to do. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So here we are. May 8th, I was put into the IRR, which is inactive ready reserve. So I'm not discharged. I'm just basically put on the shelf. But through all of this, again, congressional support, I met with you and Carnegie and Senator Mastriano again. And at that time, I was doing a lot of emails and phone calls. A lot of them were getting through, and then some of it kind of fizzled out. And in my mind, I had to go outside the box and meet with them, or meet with Senator Mastriano in person. He's the only one that has helped or was concerned about the situation. They also did a medical symposium, which I had sent you an email about or a text message about, and that came out on April 5th. And that goes into basically the discussion with Senator Mastriano, with Dr. Peter McCool, Stevie Kirsch, attorney Thomas Renz, and Dr. Brian Arness. So the information is out there, and I'm just taking a stand not only for myself, but for my military brothers and sisters out there.
Right on. So, do you know, has there been punitive action against people in the military that have decided to say no to this vaccine? I mean, are you actively segregated and or discriminated against by the military, sir?
Well, yes, ma'am. So in the beginning part, they do segregate you. They split you out, vaxxed, unvaxxed, religious, and medical, and then they basically weed you out. So when you go to the religious or medical part, then they're like, okay, we've got everybody separated. This is what we're going to do. And to get them to persuade them or to coerce them into, getting the vaccine or holding them against their will, whether it be their jobs, livelihood, insurance, because they have families. You know what I mean? So that in turn is coercion, in my opinion.
I totally agree with you. Do you believe that we have a United States military that is ready to act if we were threatened by another country or if our president told us to?
No, not at all. So what it is that, in my opinion, again, is the folks who have taken the vaccine are basically injured from the inside because they know they have adverse reactions. Then the military or the DOD is kicking out military members in all 6 branches of the military. This is across the country. So it's not just here in the state of Pennsylvania, it's across the country. So think of the repercussions of that if we were to be attacked. Our defenses are down from attacks from the outside, and our defenses are down from attacks from the inside within the country.
I understand there is a terrible retention problem and recruitment problem. Are you seeing a lot of folks trying to get into the military these days, sir?
No, ma'am, because of the situation at hand. I think a lot of people are seeing what's going on throughout the country. A lot of folks are waking up, and I think that no one wants to serve their country if they're going to be forced or held against their will.
When you almost 20 years ago decided as a younger man that you wanted to serve the United States of America, you had a feeling in your heart about this place where we all love. How has this circumstance changed your feelings about that?
Well, it's kind of tough because I love my country. When I signed up back in October of 1993, I wanted to serve my country. I wanted to help out my American citizens and provide peace, stability, and freedom throughout the country. Now, you really can't trust anybody because of what's going on. You know what I mean? So all the trust is lost through the medical part and leadership, because as a leader or as a non-commissioned officer or even just as a member of the military, your duty, your sworn oath is to look after military members and look after citizens in the country. And in all honesty, that hasn't happened whatsoever. It's actually the direct opposite. It's disgusting, actually, in my opinion. Sooner or later, the time's going to come when those folks are going to be held accountable for what they've done. And my thing is to remember your oath. What I do too is when I go visit my father was in the military, he was in Vietnam. He has passed away in 2019. What I usually do when I go out to the veteran cemetery, and what's brought me to a lot of what I've done, not only for my military brothers and sisters, but what I see is when I go to the cemetery of the Alleghenies, and I see the headstones of all the military members that have served, and you look at Arlington National Cemetery and all the military cemeteries across the country, none of them gave up. They fought for our freedoms. So to me, that keeps me going every single day. The fact of the matter is that there is a lot of support out there for military members. Ongoing. This is ongoing. This has been since August and maybe even before that. And I've reached out to a lot of people. I help other military members, especially the ones at the 171st, Air National Guard in Pittsburgh, and the 911th where I serve at. So I have a lot of friends that are there that are fighting. And I let them know that, hey, we're gonna win this. We got to stay on course, stay on target, and stay on the mission.
Do you know people at the 9/11th or the 171st, sir, who have had adverse events? You don't have to give me specifics, but do you know of any?
Yes, ma'am. There's a couple of friends of mine that what I noticed, this was back in May, they brought the masks back on. And as on the outside world, I'm a federal contractor. So I usually go onto the base for my full-time job. And I noticed them having masks. They were outside in the back dock. They had their masks around their wrist. And I asked them, I said, why do you have your masks for? And they said, oh, they re-implemented them because there's an infection in Allegheny County. I said, just here? You know what I mean? And they were very upset because they had to do it. And we got to talking, and they said they did have a lot of adverse reactions to what's going on, either the first shot, the second shot, and going forward. And in my opinion, it's a bioweapon. It basically attacks your immune system. And you can check out the research that's out there. Dr. Peter McGoogle and Dr. Zelenko. I did a lot of research through that and a lot of the other doctors that are out there. So AFLDS, AmericanFrontlineDoctors.org, is a good source to go to. And it basically tells you, what the adverse reactions are. And it could be, depending on the person's DNA, how it affects them. It may not affect them right away, but down the line, it's going to affect them more and more and more. And they could have like a common cold, what have you, and their immune system's broke down and they're going to get hit with that and it could take them out.
I want you to hang tight with me because I have one more question for you after this quick commercial break, sir. And I think it's important for those of you who have military men and women in your life and you want to be a part of something that's pushing back. I'm going to ask him about how you can learn more information, so don't go anywhere. I want to thank Dr. Richard Rafferty and the team at the Disc Institute of Pittsburgh for what they do to help people reclaim their life joy. To walk around in pain because of a bulging or herniated degenerative disc in your back or neck, and to be told that there's nothing anybody can do for you save surgery or maybe lifelong injections, those epidurals in your spine. And that's not really optimism for the future. But what Dr. Rafferty does is a revolutionary non-surgical procedure called intradisc neutrosis. Please call and ask them if you are a candidate, how you can get an appointment to sit down with Doc. 98% successful. You're not just rolling the dice, you're making a decision that could very well give you your life joy back. 412-906-9600. 412-906-9600. PittsburghDiscInstitute.com. Don't go anywhere. Sometimes standing alone, like Clarence Thomas says, when you're right, you find comfort in that solitude. If you want to join what Technical Sergeant Lauderbaugh is doing, if you need more information, I've got it for you next on the Wendy Bell Radio program. Supreme Court delivers massive blow to Biden's climate agenda. This is breaking right now. The Supreme Court dealt that blow, blah, 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 by limiting the Environmental Protection Agency's authority to regulate greenhouse gas emissions from power plants. Congress did not grant EPA's in Sections 111D of the Clean Air Act the authority to devise emissions caps based on generation shifting approach, blah, blah, blah. Justice John Roberts wrote in the majority opinion. The case was centered around a 2015 Obama-era EPA climate rule known as the Clean Air Act, which sought to cut carbon emissions from power plants by 32% by 2030. 6-3 decision. That's big.
What's that?
The Supreme Court just ruled on blocked one of the Biden administration's emissions things around power plants. So they had vowed by 2030 to cut all emissions by 30% or whatever. And the Supreme Court just knocked that down.
Yeah, they also remain in Mexico policy.
Stays. No, gone.
Gone.
So Biden is okay to keep people here.
I believe so. I didn't really get a chance to read into it yet. I saw the headline. I mean, let's be honest. The Democrats, if they don't like a ruling, they just get around it anyway. So they're one person in charge of EPA said, even if they take it away, we're going to push forward. Maxine Waters said it. Forget the Supreme Court.
Yeah, we don't like what you're doing.
She told you.
We were reading earlier this week some of these stories regarding how the government and the DOD has been using intimidation tactics to basically enforce what we believe is a completely unconstitutional, unfathomable edict that everybody in the military get this jab. And they've been using these tactics to basically make people in the military feel very isolated if they decided to stand alone. One of those people who decided to stand alone is Technical Sergeant Scott Lauderbaugh, and he's joining us again. Sir, would you please tell everybody how they can get involved or they can connect with this, or if they are in fact alone? Are there more of you out there who are standing up, at least quietly, than we know of, sir?
Well, ma'am, to be totally honest with you, I would say that there are 17,000 plus military members across the country that are standing up. There could be a lot more than that. I've been in touch with Stand With Warriors, Christine Schwann, and they connected me. It was kind of weird how it all got set up, but they connected me with Davis Yost, who is a JAG officer and does criminal law or does military law. So this is how my journey went from the beginning to where we are now. Also, Revival Church, I'm a part of, which is in Moon Township, and they have a Revival Brigade. So a lot of military members who are fighting this, they have a revival worship there for military members also.
Would you tell the people, since we have a national audience, would you tell people who are listening to this, who have family members, loved ones, or even themselves who are in this predicament with the military and they're trying to stand tall and strong, do you have a message of hope? Do you have a feeling of overwhelming justice on the horizon for yourself, or are you on the fence?
No, I do. I feel that we're all going to win. I feel that the American spirit is alive and well within our country. The fact of the matter is that I don't think that the American public knows what's going on with the military or what's going on with even in the medical field, because they have to be mandated as well. So you have two left within the country and probably more coming up. because the elections are coming up. So they're going to pop another scare event into effect. But going forward, I believe the spirit is alive and well, like I had stated. I know that we're going to win as long as we all stand together, shoulder to shoulder. And once we stand up, this all ends. It's basically like when you're in high school and you have lunch money, you're going around the corner and there's bullies there and they beat you up every single day. You know, how much are you going to take until you take a stand, until you rise above what's going on? And I don't mean fight back with, you know, bullets and weapons and things like that. I'm talking about your voice. I'm talking about your constitutional rights, your First Amendment rights. A lot of people within a group in the Pittsburgh area and throughout the country also, with Tor Says, they have a lot of different groups together of American patriots that are fighting. They're writing letters to their congressmen. They're writing letters to military bases and installations. Those folks are standing up and they're not even in the military. So that's my hope, is to get that message out there and to let listeners know that we've got to all stand up and fight together if we're ever going to take our country back. There's just no other way. And if we don't, they're just going to keep taking things away from us, going after the Second Amendment. Once they take away your weapons, you can't fight. And look at all the other countries around the world who don't have the Constitution, who don't have what we have. We are the last beacon of hope within the world, and hope for others. That's why a lot of people come here.
Amen to that. Amen to that. I've got about 40 seconds left, sir. I will give it to you. What do you want to say finally to everybody who's listening?
Well, I want to thank everyone. First of all, I want to thank you and Brock and the Wendy Bell listeners and American citizens across the country. I'd also like to read quickly 3 quick scriptures that help me get through all this, as well as everyone who I've come in contact with in this journey. Joshua 1:9, haven't I commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid. Don't be dismayed, for Yahweh, your God, is with you wherever you go. The other ones that I like to go along with is Ephesians, and it would be verses 10 through 18. I won't read them because it's pretty long. And then the last one I like to state is Isaiah 40, verse 31. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. I also would like to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, my guardian angel, my pops, who was in heaven. I've been through a big journey. And like I said, a lot of this has been really spiritual for me.
Amen. Well, you've got the fight of all fights, sir. And I love what you're doing. I believe in what you're doing. I believe in religious exemptions and self-determinism. Technical Sergeant Scott Lauderbaugh, appreciate your time. Thank you for serving this country, sir, so nobly and honorably. We wish you Godspeed in your journey. You're listening to the Wendy Bell Radio program. More right after this. Sometimes it's nice to know that people are listening to you and that you're not fighting it alone.